All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look at slide 4.2. And this one's a little bit trickier, just to kind of show you a little about working with random number variables and then do some calculations. And I also set this up a little bit different. So I've got my main slide, but what happens is you can see I've got a wager slide, a trophy slide, and the no risk. So the trophy state, so this is just where we're going to manage our trophies. And this is where we're going to manage our wager stuff. And so what happens is when the slide loads, we're just going to have those start up when the timeline starts. And we also set wager, where's my properties at for that? Let's set the wager properties. We're going to allow, so by default, it's going to say hide other slide layers. If we have it set to hide other slide layers, then both layers can't show. So you got to make sure that's disabled. Or deselected. So we have a trophy states, we want that to show, and we have a wager. And this is a good way when you have a lot of variables and different triggers, you can kind of parcel them out. So you can create a layer to just manage certain triggers and variables. And this way it's easier to look at what you have. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to see what I have. I've got a bunch of references, but I haven't created the variables yet. So let's go ahead and we'll use these references when we get to that point. So let's look at what we have so it makes sense when you're looking at it. And this is the preview here. So you're going to see when we preview this slide, everything's showing. But this information here is on a layer. This information's on a layer. So what I want to do is I want to change the state of this. So you're going to have a certain variable value. So you've collected, let's say, 4 trophies. So you have the chance to be a risk taker. If you're not a risk taker, you're going to click no, and that's going to take you to this level and say, hey, too bad, you had an opportunity to win big, and then you can move on, right? If you are a risk taker, what that's going to do is it's going to it's going to do math formula or math, and then it's going to determine if you win trophies or lose trophies. So it's double or nothing. So what I did is I just created a random variable between, a number of 0 and 20 or something. And then that random variable is there. So when I click yes, it's going to take the trophies value. Let's say trophies had 4. And it's going to multiply 4 by, or it's going to do this. It's going to compare trophies to whatever the random number is. If the random number is greater than 4, then I'm going to change trophies to 0. If random number was less than 4, then you win, and I'm going to multiply trophies by 2, which will double your trophy value. So and that's what we have here. If you look at this, we have a random number. We just call it double or nothing. And we're going to make that equal to some random number between 0. Let's look at this. Between 0 and 25. So that's just going to create a number between 0 and 25. So we have a random variable, double nothing. So we're going to compare our trophies to whatever's randomly generated by the system. So if the trophies are greater than the random number, then you can see here, we're going to multiply trophies by 2. So we're going to double what you get for trophies when they click this here. If double or nothing is less than or equal to the actual number of trophies. So you can win by having the same amount or more. If you have fewer, we're going to set trophies to 0. So that's if your random number is greater than trophies collected, you're going to get 0. And that's basically all we have to do. So let's go ahead and do that. And so hopefully it makes sense, especially if you're just getting started. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of all of these things because these are different than we have. Okay, so let's do this. First thing we want to do is we want to create a random number. So that's just going to be, it's like bingo. We're going to pull a number and that's going to be there. And then we're going to compare what you have for trophies to that random number. So let's go ahead and on the wager slide, we're going to do that. And when you click the yes button, we want to start doing our calculations. So let's go ahead, since this is the wager slide, let's go ahead and put a trigger on here. What do I want to do? I need to create a random variable first. So let's create a variable. And this is just going to be random number. We'll just call it random double so we know what that is. We can choose number, and the initial value here is just going to be random. And we can say between 0 and 25. Hit OK. And so when this number displays, it's always going to be random between 0 and 25. And let's go ahead and put a reference to that here. It's on this slide here. So let's go ahead and put a reference to that. I can actually take this. I'm going to do this and put it on our wager slide since we're working on that. So we're going to put a reference here, insert reference to random double. So if we preview this slide, we should just always be getting a random number when we come in there. So you can see random double is set to 0 or to 1. So if we replay this, I don't know why it's not replaying, but it should reset it. But if we close it and we come back, let's preview it one more time. It should reset that, and as you can see it's 17. So the random number is working exactly the way we want it to. What we want to do here is, here we're just going to display our trophy value, right? So how many trophies do we have? We're just going to insert a reference to our trophies, and that's what we collected here, trophy. So 7 is what I don't know if we have 7 yet, but that's our trophy value. And then we can make a note here. You have X trophies here. So you currently have blank trophies. And so that's going to let them know. Now, do you want to double or nothing? Right? And so they're going to wager. If he says no, we'll fix that first. If I say no, I'm just going to show layer no risk, and you don't have any risk. If they say yes, then I want to do something. So the first thing I want to do is I want to, if we look at this again, what I want to do is I want to set, I guess the random numbers anyway, but I can reset the random number. I can multiply trophies by 2 if random number is lower, or if it's higher, I'm going to take away the random number. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to click on this. Let's go ahead and reset the random number. So we're going to, you don't really need to do it because you already have a number, but we're just going to adjust the variable so you can kind of see what's going on. So we're going to random double. We're going to assign that a random number between 0 and 25, and when the user clicks. So this way, when you're looking at the button, you kind of see what's going on. And now what we want to do is, this is going to be 0 to 25. So what we want to do is, we have our trophy value. So we're going to adjust our value. So we're going to adjust our value trophy. And what we want to do is, we want to multiply that by 2. When the user clicks that button on this condition, that the random double variable is, we'll say, less than or equal to the value of this variable and trophy. So what's going to happen is, random double is going to be generated, and then it's going to compare random double to trophy, and if it's less than, it's going to multiply trophy by 2. If it's more than, we want it to make trophy 0. So we can just copy this, paste it, and we're going to come here and we're going to say adjust trophy, and we're going to assign it the value of 0 when user clicks this button, and we're going to say when random double is greater than the value of trophy. So if we preview this, so when I click the no button, there's no risk, right? Okay, let's replay. Oops. Let's replay this slide. Double is 21. I don't have any trophies. So if I hit yes, it's redoing it and it's not doing anything yet. But let's set the initial value to trophies just so we can test it out. So we're going to set the initial value of trophies, and we'll say the initial value of trophies is 8. So I've collected 8 trophies. So now when I preview this slide, it's going to compare. So I can see I've collected 8 trophies. We can see the value. Right now, double is 4. So if that was the value, we would win. But I'm going to hit yes, so it's going to reset double, and it's going to compare it. And you can see I lost. And let's see if we could preview this again here, replay this slide. I don't know how to get it to refresh it. Okay. And we go through here. It's 13. Let's go ahead and hit yes. And you can see I'm just not able to beat the house. That's the way gambling works. So anyway, so there's a little, good comparison, using a random number and comparing that, and then doing some simple multiplication or adjusting the value. So what we're going to do now is I have a trophy state here. So I have a winner and I have a loser trophy state. So what we want to do on this one is let's change the state of trophy here to winner. And when do we want to change it to winner? And we'll just say when let me see. I don't want to do it different than the way I put it on here. So let me look at how we did this on the trophy state. So we're changing it to winner when trophy changes if trophy is greater than 0. Because remember, if we win, we're going to have more than 0. And so we can change it to that. If we lose, then it's going to be equal to 0. So I was going to actually about to do it a different way. So let's go ahead and we're evaluating the trophy collected variable. And so what we're going to say is we're going to change the state of trophy to winner when variable changes, and which variable? Trophy, and we'll show the condition. So if trophy is greater than the value of 0, because it's either going to be 0 or a number. And here we're going to copy this and paste it. We're going to change this to loser, or not winner. I guess you can't say loser anymore. Change the state of trophy to loser when trophy changes if it's equal to 0. All right, so, and this is a good example of how splitting these up. So I've got all my wager information here. I've got all my trophy information here. So this way I don't have one slide with a ton of triggers on it. I can separate my triggers, and I just have to have a slide that launches that layer so that I can make that all active. So if we preview this now, we should see yes, and I'm a loser. All right, as Beck would say. Yes, I'm still a loser. All right, so that's the way that works. And if you want to make the odds of winning better, you can lower or raise the numbers depending on what you want to do. One last thing we have is when you change this here, you can see it says show layer no risk. The other thing we're going to do when we get to the other slide is we're going to say you're a risk taker or not, and then we're also going to give you some credit for taking risks even if you don't win. But that's basically it for this slide. Let me just double check to make sure I'm not missing something. So when you're going through this, so we're adjusting the value there. We're changing, I changed the state so when you come back you can't just keep hitting the buttons, but we don't need to worry about that. But when you're actually doing that, maybe the last one we'll go through and clean up all these little things, but when you go through here, you don't want them to be able to click no and then click yes, or click yes and then click no. So you want to change the state of those to disabled once they've clicked those. And then you can see I have a continue button here as well, because once you click yes and you get your information, you're going to have to continue. So let's go ahead and set that here on the base slide. So where's my continue button? Do I have a continue button? Wager, timeline. I guess I don't have a continue button, but you could put a continue button there. So we'll just add a button so we can continue. Otherwise, you don't know where to go. So we're going to say continue. All right. Let me see. Continue. All right. So we got our continue button, and we'll make this hidden. So we'll make the state of that hidden, and that's not going to be visible until you click the yes button. So let's go ahead and add a trigger. Change this. Oh, it's not on here. This will go to the next slide, so we won't worry about that right now. So on the yes button, we want to change the state of the continue button here to normal when user clicks the yes button. So if we preview this, I click yes, and my button should show up as well. See, I won. And then I can continue and then go forward in the course. Or I could disable and enable the next button. Just depends on how you want to do that. All right, that's it for this one. In the next tutorial, we'll look at this. So we've gone through it. The next tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to look at building out the suitcase and then kind of pulling everything together. And then the last one is we will look at how to build out that variables, set variables option so that you can quickly modify the variables as you're going.